Neoclassicism is an art movement inspired by the ancient Greeks and Romans, in which architects and artists used contemporary techniques to revitalize ancient art canons. During this time, different artists had conflicting ideas on how to best represent American democracy. Does anyone in the class know an example of neoclassical art in American history?
I think Horatio Grinnell's 1841 statue of George Washington is a perfect representation of American values through neoclassicism. This piece exemplifies neoclassical style because Washington is portrayed as a god, with the statue being heavily based on a sculpture of Zeus, the head god of the Greek pantheon. In addition, carvings on the side depict the Greek god Apollo, which represents American enlightenment, and Hercules saving himself and his brother, which represents American courage, as well as Christopher Columbus with a Native American to demonstrate the meeting of the Old and New World.
Horatio Grinnell's statue of George Washington is a horrible example of neoclassicism in America. I mean, he's literally half naked.
It's not Grinnell's fault Americans were prudes.
Grinnell should have tailored to his American audience. Presenting George Washington in such an exposing manner made his statue unpopular in America.
I think a more conservative portrayal of George Washington is more appropriate, like in William James Houdon's sculpture. Houdon's George Washington wears 1700s everyday clothing, which aligns with George Washington's ideology that leaders should not be deified.
If George Washington saw Grinnell's statue, he would be appalled at being raised to the level of a Greek god.
Well, how does that have anything to do with neoclassicism in America?
In general, neoclassicism in America was more subdued than in Europe in religious references due to America's separation of church and state. But Houdon's 1792 statue is still full of neoclassical references.
For example, while George Washington is in normal clothes, Houdon inserted a fasces, a Roman symbol of power and authority, with 13 rods to represent the 13 original states. Houdon also sculpted a sword not in Washington's grasp, which represents relinquishing military power in favor of democracy.
Theses is right. I still think Horatio's sculpture is a better example of neoclassicism. I mean, he was literally an Aquarius.
Okay, everyone. You guys are both right. But Grinnell's sculpture was hated by most Americans who saw it, and yes, Americans were prudes. Grinnell's statue was made to commemorate George Washington's centennial birthday, but many felt it was a stain on George Washington's legacy. Houdon's statue, on the other hand, is widely renowned for being the most accurate portrayal of George Washington. I wonder what the outcome would have been if these sculptures would have been created today.
And I will always love you. I always love you. But above this, I'm